Hello, ladies and gentlemen, I am PANCZASU, delighted to bring to you Endless Legend Guardians expansion. It is something that I have personally played for a while now, not only in the beta that 50 lucky chosen ones were able to participate in, but also before that, because as you may or may not remember, I am a VIP for this game, which means that I am a playtester. So I have played it quite a bit, maybe not as much as I would like, but regardless, you are going to see a playthrough from me in which I'll explain the new game mechanics, strategies involved with them, and all of this good stuff. I'll also bring some odd friends to the show. Wait to see what I mean by that. But firstly, I feel like I should clear up some things about this expansion. It is a paid expansion, meaning that you have to pay in order to be able to play it. Right now the prices are $10 in the US, 10 euros in the European Union, which, yeah, I know, we get the short of it on the stick. I'm not really happy about it, I have to admit. And £7, more or less £7 in UK. I don't know about the other prices in other regions. So there is that. What do you get for that? Well, actually quite a lot. You get Guardians. You can see one of those guys over there, and this is not a representation, by the way, when it comes to size. These guys are rather big. You also get random events that happen. You also get cooperative and competitive events, which means that there are random events that happen in the world that multiple players can cooperate with each other in order to solve some problems, or they can compete with each other. Plenty of cool stuff, trust me about that. There are also additional legendary buildings, some unique buildings. Legendary buildings can be only erected once in the entire game world, so they are similar to Civilization 5 Wonders, and I guess that's how I'm gonna call them, maybe, I'm not sure. And there are also, like I said, unique buildings. These can be made multiple times across several empires, but only once in a single given empire. There are also a bunch of other smaller, but regardless fairly important additions, and all together this all adds up to different early game years, but it mostly changes the late game of Endless Legend, which I feel some people, if people had problems with Endless Legend, it usually meant that it's either about the battle system, which I disagree with heavily, or the late game, which I understand the problem with, as the late game, while not as bad as in some other 4Xs, well, it is missing nukes, so it needed a bit more of a punch, and now we have Guardians as well as plenty of other things that change the strategy around quite a bit, so we can enjoy that now. So it is my personal recommendation to obviously for you to buy this DLC/expansion, but there's one thing that you might be rather happy about. If you play in a multiplayer game, and well, you don't have the expansion, but one of your friends has the expansion, well then you're good to go, because you can play with him and you'll get all the content from within the expansion as well. It's a similar system to what the Crusader Kings 2 has, so if the host has the expansion, then everybody has. Obviously it doesn't carry the single player game, but regardless, you know what I mean. It's a pretty cool system and I love it a lot personally. But let us stop talking about the expansion. It was important, but it's more important to show you what it does in-game and how it changes strategies. And as for the faction, well, I was thinking which faction should I go with? And as I have already covered all the factions in the game, the major factions at the very least, but there is one faction that is underrepresented and it's one of my favorites, the Necrophages. As you may or may not remember, I have made a playthrough for them. But it was in an unfortunate time perhaps, it was right before Endless Legend was released. As such, I was unable to complete said playthrough because the save file was incompatible in released game, because I started it before the game was released. So as a result I was able to shut down the playthrough. So let's start it anew. I mean, the Necrophages have evolved since then, quite literally in fact. And now that we are in Guardians DLC, well, I think strategies in general have changed quite a lot. And from what I noticed, this DLC does change a lot of things, especially for factions like Necrophages, or Cultists, or the Draken. Although obviously it changes things for everybody, but these factions I feel like they changed the most. That's what I'm getting at. How big is this game going to be? Well, certainly more than 4 empires. Let's bump it up to 6. I don't feel like going to 8 is reasonable. This game would be just too long, but 6 on normal map I feel like it will be just fine for us. As for the world setup, it is going to be exactly the same as it was last time, with number of continents maybe spanning between 1 to 3. 90% random. I do want randoms to be there. World wrap is going to stay there, but everything else is more or less random. Region size, I'm fine with normal. Honestly, I kind of grew content with it. I remember in the past I liked it to be small, I think, or maybe big. I don't even remember, but right now I like normal. As for everything else, I'm just quickly checking if everything is like it is supposed to be. Lake odds, random. Lake size, random. Yeah, not everything is as it's supposed to be. Rivers, random. Ridges and cliffs, well, I like them because they changed the dynamic of the game, so they're gonna stay at many. Continent spread, random. Continent form, random. Region size is going to stay at normal. As for their empire spawn average, I like that. Rare, normal, hard, random. Yep, everything else seems to be in order, so obviously victory conditions are going to stay as they are and as they always have been. So now we are ready to jump into the game, and I'll see you then. Alright, we have just loaded into the game and looks like we are on some deserted wasteland, but just looking at it, I think it's a really nice, fairly lucky start, because there's a lot of anomalies over here, which should prove quite useful, especially since, well, I'm Necrophages. If you remember, and you should remember, Necrophages are agriculturally challenged, meaning that I gain way less food than most other factions would. But this is Tundra Rocks, you don't get food over here anyway. And over there there's Tundra Grass. Yes, I do gain lower amount of food from there, but I also have the, Black F, which is going to help with my food production quite a bit. Now, unfortunately, in order to gain benefits from both the Black F and Spiral Rock Peel, which is something I definitely do want to do, I'll need to settle on this tile right here, Tundra Grass, which will lower my food production by 1, which is going to mean that I'll have only 8 food production in my starting city, being a considerably low amount. Now, I'm not sure if happiness that I'm going to gain from Spiral Rock Peel will be enough to offset this problem. I'll hazard a guess that this will not be enough and that my growth will be slowed down as a result. Then again, nothing not to be expected out of Necrophages. We need to kill in order to eat. This is how we are, this is what we are, this is how we play, and this hasn't changed in the expansion. So let's do first things first. Something that has not changed in this DLC at all. I know for a fact I'm going to settle here. I think there's a little doubt about that. So I might as well already move my settler like so. And then I'm going to move my scouts around. Normally I would perhaps want to spread my scouts, but because I already see the ideal spot to settle, I'm not going to do just that. So let's go ahead and move slightly forward, discover a bit more terrain and see what is inside those ruins. Within 5 turns, search for relic over there. That's far away, however, in 5 turns I should be able to make it just fine. And, well, I need a scout anyway. Speaking of scouting, I do want to see what is over there, and I should be able to make it... Even if I move to this tower, I should be able to make it back there in 5 turns without too many problems. Unless there's a cliff here that I missed. No, there is not. Good. There are Hunas in the nearby region. This is very good because, as you might remember, Necrophages, while we do have a ranged unit in the form of Proliferator, it's not very damaging. What we also need is to have as much attack as possible, because we are very much so glass cannons. Necrophages utilize the power of their Necrodons. Necrodons are pretty bad at most things except for killing other units, at which they're absolutely amazing. So I do want to have as much as attack as possible. Those guys will help me. I already know where I'll expand in the future. But alas, that is now out of the way and I can freely settle down my city. So let us do just that. City has been put down. I'll need to think of a naming theme for the series, but this I suppose can wait for a little bit longer. In the meantime, what have we else? What else do we have? Well, we have also met, unfortunately, the Draken. I say unfortunately because I hate to fight those bastards, especially as the Necrophages. They take forever to kill. Yes, they have been nerfed, so they are no longer like insanely overpowered, or just too good. But still, I mean, some things will never change, and one of those things is their survivability. Regardless, I'll need to kill them. Do I know where they are? No, I don't. It's them who know where I am. I'm a dummy. So there is that then. Now, because I have already settled my city, I suppose it's time to talk about the changes that this expansion brings to us, as they are already in effect, in fact. First things first, let's have a look at the reset screen, since we need to set our reset first. And what is this, you might ask? Well, these are the legendary deeds. As you can see, each era has a set of 3 legendary deeds, and these deeds you can complete at a leisurely pace. No, not at all. In fact, you are competing with other players to see who first can complete a legendary deed. The first player that gets it, well, gets it. Everybody else, well, too bad, you're not gonna get it ever. So there is quite a bit of challenge to be had there. Regardless, those legendary deeds are very important for you to get. While it is not a crucial loss if you don't get one of them, in fact it's presumably impossible to get all of them before other players, unless you're severely outmatching your opponents. However, you certainly don't want to be left alone without any of those things, as they can change the way that your empire is shaped by quite a bit. Also, another cool thing is the fact that those deeds are semi-randomized. Yes, they are predetermined of what they can be, but they're not always the same thing. For example, for Era 1 you can have this legendary deed that I'm looking at right now, which says, well, destroy 10 armies and you get more initiative. This can be different. This can be pacify 3 villages. And again, also initiative. I don't remember if the bonus is the same, honestly. Maybe it was a bit more, maybe it was the same, but it was a different quest that I can tell you for a fact. The same thing goes like along everywhere. This thing, for example, right now it tells me to produce 4,000 dust, and previously it said, not previously, but it can also say, for example, let me think, Era 3. Man, I've been playing this so much, and oh yeah, I think it was. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that one of the other options here is be the first player to have titanium, glass steel, palladium, and adamantium in your treasury, something like this. I don't remember now too well, but I think it was something along those lines. Immovable force. In this case, it's have a city with 800 fortification value, and it can also be, for example, be the first player with 3 guardians. And guardians being the new ginormous units that you can have, and you can have as many guardians as well as you have. There's a limited amount of guardians you can have. That's basically what I'm getting at. If you unlock a guardian technology, well, you increase the amount of guardians that you can have. So there is that. Those deeds you can only complete if they are in an era that somebody is in. What do I mean by that? Well, let's say that I'm still in first era, but the AI is already in second era, which will certainly happen at some point. This means that all of those deeds will become available to me as well. It doesn't matter if you are in the proper era to get those deeds, it matters if somebody is, anybody in fact, and then people can already start competing. Now, of course, if you are the one who goes for the next era first, this usually means that you have the advantage. For example, like the alternative version of this quest requires you to have Paladin and Adamantium. If you're the first player in the third era, you're more likely to be able to complete this quest before the other players. So as you can see, this does present you one interesting incentive, or rather yet another incentive to go for the scientific rush. Other than the deeds themselves, there are also legendary structures. This is one of them, Civilization Builder. Now, the legendary structures are not randomized, unlike the deeds part, although I just noticed they are also called deeds. But regardless, they are not entirely randomized, but which I mean they are not at all. They always give you the same thing, but they also give you something rather important. That being, well, they're just plainly awesome. And you have to compete to get them as well. Again, they are work like wonders in Civilization 5. If you don't get them before somebody else gets them, well then too bad, you lose all your progress, if you made any progress to begin with. You get some sort of refund, but in general, you want to make it only if you feel like you can actually go ahead and get it. Now, when I'm playing against endless AI, I'll tell you something outright. I don't see it feasible to get Civilization Builder. I never did. I never tried it extremely hard, but I tried it a little bit, and it's difficult. You have to be lucky enough to get both titanium and glass steel very early on, and you have to rush it like crazy. But when you're playing against AI on Endless, it's unlikely that you will get it. However, as Necrophages, there are other things that I care way more about than this thing. For example, in Era 2, I gain the Baron of Industry. I don't care about the plus 25 industry in the city that has the Baron of Industry, even though it can be leveled up, as any district could be, because keep in mind, those wonders, they are districts. They are not structures, they are districts. However, I don't really care about the industry bonus. I care about the lower district cost, because keep in mind, I'm Necrophages. I'll be spamming districts everywhere. So this Baron of Industry is really something that Necrophages benefit from a lot. This can also be said, however, about the Dragons, because the Dragons also need to have a lot of districts. Now, the next thing is the Programming Scientists. I suppose I might as well go through all of those deeds, or rather legendary structures at the very least. Now this thing, well, it's very self-explanatory. Who cares about this the most? Honestly, in my experience, the Dragons again. Because the Dragons are the ones that love the old techs the most. Other players, well, I thought about the voters, but the voters want to keep getting the new techs rather than the old techs. And 25 extra science on Pragmatic Scientist, or Academic Institute, it's supposed to be the same thing. Regardless, it doesn't really bother it that much, it doesn't mean much to them either. And getting the amount of industry and resources to get it, well, resources the voters might get, but industry, that's a lot of industry. So again, it's kind of funny, but it looks like most of those are suited for the Draken. But then we have this thingy, Order of Auriga, which actually does not fit the Draken all that much, because, well, they don't really care. Again, the extra influence bonus is not that important to them. And as for the treaties, well, as you've seen me play the Draken, they don't care about that either too much. They might as well get it, I suppose, but it's not that important. Who it is important for, however, well, that will be the Necrophages. Because getting the extra influence is very important when you want to declare the war on the enemy, especially people like, for example, the Draken, who are forcing you into truce. You need to have the extra influence in order to break that. And this Elder of the Riga is proving rather useful when you're playing as the Necrophages. That said, I was never able to get it when I played as the Necrophages. I have to admit, getting the Mithrite and Hyperion before the enemy does as Necrophages is challenging. Not impossible, it can be done. I haven't played enough to say that it cannot. I, in fact, firmly believe it can be done. I just haven't tried hard enough. And lastly, we've got the Inspiring Commander, which is rather beastly again. Something I think that is very useful for the Necrophages, because again, Necrophages, they love spamming their armies around, don't they? But it can also be useful for other people, like for example the Broken Lords. Oh yes, Broken Lords absolutely adore this thing. They don't care about the extra dust per level on this thing, of course. However, what they do care about is the lower the military upkeep, because as I have shown you, yes, spamming armies is what they like to do and they're pretty good at it. Aside for that, so techs have been modified to a lesser or bigger extent. For example, when we look at this, it used to be just giving this tech, used to just give you access to seed storage. Now it's called cultivation, and it gives you access to both seed storage, which is very nice, as well as husbandry center, which is one of the unique structures. Several empires can have husbandry centers, but you, as a player, can only have one. And these are very interesting. They force your cities to specialize, and again, it's something that I really like. And there are two approaches that you can have in regards to those unique structures. You can either make them early to gain the early benefit from them, as well as you can see, they're extremely worthwhile. They are very cheap and give you enormous benefits. But maybe you don't. But maybe in the future you'll find a better city location where you want to make them. I personally like to wait a little bit, not too long, but at least a little bit. Making them in the first city is tempting, don't get me wrong, but not necessarily something I like to do. Other thing that in Era 1 has been changed is topography. So now it not only gives you access to geomic labs, which were a bit underwhelming, useful but underwhelming at times. Now, however, it also gives you center for mineralogy. I'm sorry, this is beyond me. Regardless, as you can see, again, rather useful. And what I thought personally that is very interesting is that those unique structures, they are very useful for cultists. They are direct buff to cultists because they can only have one seat regardless, so they just bomb rush them ASAP. And it's also not an incentive for the cultists to actually get them, because sometimes they would maybe not want to have things like that. For example, hydrology. This is tech, well, I personally would never go for this tech regardless, but as cultists, well, I wouldn't either. I would despise this tech even more so than usual, because it's almost completely useless. Not entirely, but almost completely. However, now with the central docks as the cultists, it's great, it's amazing, it's exactly the kind of industry boost you need as the cultists, and suddenly hydrology is a relevant technology again. It's amazing. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. We're 20 minutes into the video and still on 10.1, and I don't want this video guys to be too long, so let's just go ahead and start queuing up the Holy Triangle. Yes, the Holy Triangle rule still applies. It's, at least for the Necrophages, it's the best build order in my opinion. And now as for the city, as you can see, there it is, the Museum of Riga. I could already start making it if I had the resources, which obviously I did not. So let's start it off by making the Founders Memorial and also expand the screen a little bit. I cannot get to extra population 2/10, I might as well switch population into production focus, industry rather. And now I can finally end my 10. Jeez, that took forever and ever, didn't it? Give me a second, I need to sip a bit of water. Sorry, that was delicious. Alrighty then. Now, the next quest. Kill people, get wine for it. Seems legit. What region is that? Azmael. Alright, and I need to kill Nidia villagers. Nidia villagers are fun to kill because they don't present much of a threat, early on or later on either, in all honesty. Nidia are rather weak, puny little units that can die very easily to your foragers and heroes, which is rather awesome, isn't it? Alrighty then. We'll probably need to find them, but first things first, I do want to complete this mine of thinking, because this relic, well, you never know, it could be rather useful, powerful. So let's go ahead and make my way over there. Meanwhile, in my capital, well, things are being done at a reasonable rate. And before I forget, I might as well change my army around a little bit, because it's important to do, regardless. Firstly, sellers, they should have increased movement, that's something I've always said. The foragers, I like to leave as they are. In the future, I'll probably retrofit this guy, but in Era 1, the cheapest, the better. The cheaper the forager is, the better. You don't want to overspend on him. As for the Necrodon, well, this is a big body that is going to be doing the majority of the damage. But right now, again, this body doesn't need any changes as it is. It is supposed to be glass cannon regardless, and in all honesty, Iron Helmet and the Cuirass, I never knew how to pronounce it, are not really worth the cost unless you have a very good reason to go for them. So we're not changing that either, obviously. Now, after I'm done with Founders Memorial, I'll immediately make Founders Mill Foundry, so I'm not gonna queue up anything else, and I'll simply save the industry overflow from this turn into the next turn. Now, when will the random events happen, you may ask? Wask? I meant to say ask. Well, not yet, but give it a moment, they will be here eventually. And what will they do for us? Well, they will change the dynamic of the entire game session. They are randomized, yes, but what they do is, well, they can do a variety of different things. For example, they can make, let me think, they can make sometimes give you more food, or they can make sometimes give you less dust, or right now it's not the best example. I have trouble remembering the exact random event that you can get early on, but regardless, you get the gist. They change the value of certain tiles or do something of similar effect, or remove all healing capabilities from all of your units, which is something that makes Brocolords rather happy. So yeah, that can change the mechanic and the flow of the game quite drastically. Let's go ahead and try to fight the Ended. I'm gonna try to go for auto battle and see how it goes. It should go rather well. I mean, in all honesty, I've got my hero over here. Necrophages heroes are rather awesome. Wow, okay, I should not have gone for the auto battle. Regardless, however, I did gain 4 cadavers, so I'll be able to eat those. So I suppose this is a good thing, but I'd rather not lose 2 foragers for this. I should have gone for manual battle. Regardless, it saved me a little bit of time, I suppose. So there's that, and I have 4 cadavers, so I need only 4 more to get my free yummy counter that I can use to chew on things. Meanwhile, my hero. Now, what do I want to do with a Necrophages hero? Necrophages heroes were always a little bit tricky in my opinion to handle, because one, they do have slavery. Slavery is incredibly useful, especially in a region that has a lot of villages. On the other hand, generally speaking, they have traits that are suited for army leaders. Like, for example, army attack boost. As you can see, that's rather useful and important. But then again, we look at the faction bonuses and they are all over the place. For example, we've got some that just give you extra food and industry production when you're making units. But then you've got things that give you more health regen on your own units and extra attack on hero and more health regen. So it's hard to decide with those guys, in all honesty. But I personally like to, you know, change things up a little bit and go through the path of common class thingy rather than the faction thingy for my starting hero at the very least. Yes, putting the starter hero in your first city is a decent idea if you want to get the food, but I was lucky enough to get the Black Earth anomaly right next to my city, which means that I'm not necessarily starving for food. True, I could have more of it, but I don't think this is a pressing concern, and right now I don't even want to move my hero to a city anyway. I need my scout/combat unit. So I'm not gonna do that. I'm going to spec this guy to be an army general. As such, I'm gonna start by giving him Indiana Bones, because I do like having Necrophages with no idle hands. It's nice to have those highly leveled Necro drones as soon as possible. They can wreak havoc. So there is that done. Now I am really hindered by the fact that this battle went so poorly, I have to say. Losing those Necrophages so early is a big damage to my early units, but not something I will not be able to repair relatively easily. I can just make Necro drones, which are, I mean, they cost a lot more, yes, but they are so very effective. Anyway, this is it for this turn, so I'm gonna go ahead and end it now. Nice and easy. And keep moving now. This cliff is a bit of a bummer, but I still should be able to make it to this ruin within the required time period, so this should be more or less and okay. Let's go ahead and search those ruins. In order to do so correctly, I need to colonize Jamoj, or Yamoi, however you want to look at it. So this is the region I'm in. In return, I will get some dice. Dice are nice. 51 with those. So if I make this region as my first... enemy nearby. This is a big problem. I'll discuss this later. Anyway, if I expand here first, I'll well be able to use those die boosters ASAP, which will be rather nice. That said, I do want to get this region, but then again, this region looks like it will be contested with somebody who I didn't know who it is, which is a problem, especially since, well... do I want to rush this seller? Let's have a quick look, actually. Is there any place in this region that I can expand to at a reasonable pace? More or less reasonable pace. Let's have a quick look. Not really. There are no... I mean, there is a river there, but there is no food anywhere that I can see this. So this would be a problem. Meanwhile, down there, well, I cannot see any food right just yet, but that's because there's a forest. Those are green towns, so for the most part, I can safely assume there will be food there. Right now, however, I cannot rush the settler. Besides, as Necrophages, you don't necessarily want to rush settlers. You need your army units. So I'll queue up on Necrodome, even though I will want to queue up cultivation to get the seed storage ASAP, but in all honesty, this can possibly wait. Also, I do want to get this extra citizen ASAP. It's rather important to get. So let's go ahead and do it this way. Now the thing is, Necrophages, some people still think that Necrophages are the rush faction. No, Necrophages are the most vulnerable faction out of all of them in the early game. They are very vulnerable and weak to enemy attacks and rush tactics, and they generally cannot defend themselves very well early game either. And not to mention the economy in early game is absolutely pathetic, especially compared to endless AI, so I need to be careful. Break wall, and this can be useful if I get titanium, I suppose. Maybe I'll get it from those ruins, that will be useful. Let's have a quick check. So, oh wow, I did! I did not expect that! Wow! Okay, thank you, game. That was a nice act. I also forgot to set those ruins again, so I'll do so right now. Glass, wow, titanium and glass steel. That is not enough. That actually, game, don't tempt me. There's no way I can get it. There's no way I can get it, right? I mean, I tried. I never was able to get it. But it's turn 5. I already have titanium and glass steel. How much production do I have? 28 per 10 with 2 population. Okay, let's think about this reasonably, shall we? Even if I focus on it, it will take me 8 turns. So for 8 turns I will not be able to do anything else. Expand the city, make more improvements, create more armies, do anything. So even if I do get it, which I still find unlikely against endless AI, what's the point? I mean, sure, benefit is nice. I will gain more dust and science and happiness in this city. I'll still have this one city with 1 improvement in it, no armies. I'll be dead in a moment. let's not get carried away. The game is trying to tempt me into going for Museum of Auriga. It's a trap, Admiral Akbar says. Let's not do that. I would love to get it. I mean, look at it. This would be awesome. But it would be also rather stupid. So I'm not gonna do it. I'll resist my foul temptations. And I'll go ahead and rush seed storage instead. Can I get extra population 110? Yes, and in fact it doesn't interrupt my seed storage production either. That's rather amazing. Now, this guy will need to go down south to scout and also hunt down for some needier villages. I think I'll lose this region to AI, unfortunately, because there is a glass steel deposit that I would very much so like to have, and I already killed the village over there as well. But I suppose some things cannot be avoided. I cannot try to contest this region as of... I mean, just yet. I'm not Drakens. Quite the opposite, in fact. So let's go ahead and end this 10 as well. We are up to 10-7 now, but it has been 30 minutes. So I should, in all honesty... Oh boy. Firstly, I failed my objective. That was to be expected. And those are the No! The ultimate rush faction! No. Okay then. Problems. Red alert and stuff. Apparently I have not discovered them yet, which is a bit weird. Let's keep it this way. Let's stay as far away from those... Oh, okay, that didn't work. Hi! Don't kill me, please, because if you want to, there's literally nothing I can do. They can murder me horribly. As in, seriously, I don't even want to think about how one-sided a fight against Broccolords would be so early on. If this was multiplayer, I would probably offer, I don't know, some goods in real life to the Broccolords player so that he doesn't rush me and kill me. I would also definitely prioritize making a huge army ASAP at the expense of my empire, but thankfully we're playing this in single player, so I can risk the assumption that I've got some time. Not sure how much exactly, but I've got some time at the very least. And it looks like I can move on. There's only a point in moving one population into industry production to make this thing run faster. Fair enough, let's go ahead and do it. Let's discover those ruins. Now, I'm worried about this Kazanji group. They might kill my hero, which, I mean, I will retreat him and he will have enough HP. Yes, he will have enough HP to retreat, but regardless, his HP will reach a critically low level. Do I want to give him the shield right away? Well, it's 10. Oh, 6. Right. Okay. A few 2 games. So it really, the game is really turning me into making this deed, which would honestly kill me. And at the same time, it gave me just not enough, barely not enough, to not be able to equip the break wall, which is actually a very big deal in early game. Thank you, game. You're so nice and caring. Regardless, the seed storage is now done. No. You get a GTF, of crying out loud. Can I fight 2 demons with just a hero? No. Retreat. Unfortunately, I hate doing this, but I have no other option. Let's go ahead and explore those ruins, I suppose, get a bit more dust, alright, and scout a bit more before I reassign my hero to a city. I don't want to lose him, that's I know for a fact. So, okay, ruins over there, okay, unassigned hero, yes, return to the academy. Now he's safe. I'm not assigning him to the city per se, because then he would be stuck in there for a few times, which I don't want to happen for obvious reasons. Okay, then after I'm done with the Necrophages, I'll probably need a few foragers. This is not unexpected. Again, we're Necrophages. We will need a lot of armies in early game just to survive and to pacify and also to be able to expand. But this will put us behind. Don't worry though. I mean, this is part of the Necrophages meta game. You need to do whatever you can to survive until you get enough proliferators to actually declare war on the weakest neighbor of yours. And seriously, I'm surrounded by enemies. Well, South still seems safe and secure, but I'm really glad that I'm focusing on the military. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, still things look rather dicey, but well, we'll see how it goes. It depends on how aggressive the AI will be and if the orange AI will actually discover me. I hope it will not. Yeah, either way, I think it's good enough to end this videocast now. I've been mostly talking, yes, but obviously I had a good reason to do so, as a new expansion has just been released, and as such, I needed to discuss it. Ladies and gentlemen, it was PANCZASU, also known as the Mighty Mix Spammer. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you online.